Massive crisis unfolding in America right now. And the craziest part is, most people don't even see it. It's not some loud, sudden event. It's a quiet, systematic collapse of an institution that's been a cornerstone of American life for centuries. So today, we're going to dig into the data behind what's being called the Great Unchurching.
Okay, let's just start right here. That number on your screen, 15,000, that's not some far-off prediction. That's what's projected to happen this year. Let's break that down for a second. That means 41 churches are closing their doors for good every single day. That's 287 every week. We're talking about congregations that survived world wars and the Great Depression, but they're not surviving 2026.
And here's the really scary part. It's speeding up. I mean, just look at this timeline. Back in 2000, we saw about 3,500 churches close. Now, it's projected to be 15,000. The trend line is undeniable, and frankly, it's devastating. So to really understand how we got here, we're going to do a few things. First, we'll look at the scale of this collapse. Then we'll dive into the 5 root causes. We'll even look at a specific case study of who the church is failing. And finally, we'll ask, is there anything that can be done?
All right, so first, we really need to get our heads around just how huge this is. This isn't just one type of church or one denomination that's struggling. No, this is like a fire that's burning through the entire forest of American Christianity. It's hitting everyone, from the old mainline churches to the newer evangelical ones.
And wow, just look at this table. It shows there's absolutely nowhere to hide. The United Methodists, they're in a total freefall, losing 7,000 churches in just 6 years. Presbyterians have seen their average congregation size literally cut in half since the year 2000. And the Episcopal Church, with a median age of 69, they're basically staring down the barrel of extinction. And get this, even the evangelicals, who everyone thought were the future, they've lost a staggering 40% of their members.
But, numbers are just numbers. They don't really capture the heartache, do they? Think about Grace Community Church in rural Indiana. For 137 years, it was there. Then, in January, it had its last service. The pastor of 31 years, David, said those words you see on the screen. Can you even imagine? An 84-year-old woman whose great-grandparents literally built that church with their bare hands had to sit there and watch as the doors were locked for the very last time. And that story, that is happening all over the country. So, all of this just begs the big question, right? Why? Why is this happening on such a massive scale, and why now? Well, the sources we're looking at point to 5 major issues that have all collided to create a perfect storm.
Think of these as the 5 horsemen of the church apocalypse. You've got a demographic collapse, where congregations are just getting older and older with nobody to replace them. You've got a massive cultural irrelevance problem in a society that's changing at light speed. Then there's the devastating epidemic of scandals that has just shattered trust. A fundamental failure of mission, leaving a lot of churches asking, why do we even exist? And finally, a financial model that is just flat out unsustainable. Let's start with that last.
So a lot of churches, and I mean a lot, are caught in this vicious cycle. They call it a death spiral. It works like this. Fewer people show up, which means less money comes in. Less money means you have to cut programs, you have to cut staff. Well, when you cut the very things that people come for, even more people leave. And the cycle just keeps going faster and faster until the doors close for good. These beautiful, historic buildings have gone from being a blessing to a curse, a millstone of debt that is literally eating the congregation alive from the inside out. And you might be thinking, okay, but what about the mega churches? Weren't they the future? Well, not so fast. That model is crumbling too. See, it's often built around one super charismatic celebrity pastor. And when that leader falls, which we've seen happen over and over and over again, the whole thing just falls apart. One former megachurch pastor put it perfectly. He said, "We didn't make disciples, we made consumers. And I spent 20 years building something that doesn't last." Oof. Okay, to really get what's going on here, let's stop looking at the big picture for a second and zoom in on a really specific example of this failure: the church's inability to connect with single men. Now, married men are actually one of the most reliable church-going groups, but unmarried men, they often feel completely invisible, and their absence creates this huge gaping hole in the church. It's a question you hear all the time in church circles, right? Where have all the good, single Christian men gone? Is it that they're just not interested in faith anymore? Or is something else going on? The research suggests the church culture itself might actually be pushing them away without even realizing it. So the source material breaks down the single men you'll typically find in a church into these 4 main groups.
First, you've got the unicorns, strong faith, super successful, and almost impossible to find. Then you have the desirable guys. They've got worldly success, but their faith might be a little shaky. Then you have the struggling guys, who really need mentorship. And then there's the ignored. These are men with strong faith, but maybe just an average job or status.
And here is the absolute kicker. Look at this chart. The largest group by far, 65% of single men in the church, are these good, faithful men in that ignored category. These are the guys who are willing to work hard, they're active in the church, but they get overlooked. They get friend-zoned. And eventually, they just feel like there's no place for them, so they leave.
And this quote right here, it just nails it. The church is really good at painting a picture of the ideal man, a leader, a husband, a provider. But it often totally fails to give guys a roadmap, a practical game plan for how to actually become that man, especially when they're still trying to build a life for themselves. And without a clear mission, without a map, a lot of men just quietly check out.
Okay, so after all that doom and gloom, you might think it's hopeless, but it's not. Amidst all this collapse, some churches are actually thriving. So the obvious question is, what are they doing differently? By looking at these exceptions, we can start to see a really clear pattern of what's working in the 21st century.
And this slide really lays out the difference, It's a tale of two models. The failing model is what they call attractional. It's all about trying to attract people into a building with a cool show and an entertaining, consumer-friendly experience. But the growing model? It's mission-focused. It's about sending people out of the building to actually serve the community. It demands a high level of commitment, and it's all about making disciples, not just drawing a crowd.
So what do these growing churches actually look like? Well, a few things really stand out. They tend to be unapologetically theological. They expect you to be committed. Many of them are Pentecostal and charismatic, offering a faith you can really experience. They're absolutely thriving in immigrant communities, where church is a powerful anchor. And they are deeply, genuinely invested in serving their local community, meeting real needs, not just asking for attendance.
So this is what it all boils down to. It's a stark choice facing the American church. The old ways of doing things are clearly not working anymore. The options have become painfully clear: innovate or die. And the sources we've looked at lay out 6 absolutely critical lessons for any church that wants to have a future.
And this right here, this is the playbook for survival. It requires a radical, top-to-bottom shift in priorities. It's about mission over institutional preservation. It's about people over property. It's about making real disciples over just boosting attendance numbers. It's about accepting that adaptation is necessary and that change has to happen now, not later. And finally, it's about being relevant to people's actual lives, not just being theologically right or left. And that really leaves us with this one final haunting question. Everyone can see the storm is here. The debate about whether change is needed is over. The only real question left is whether these churches will find the courage to change before it's too late. Because for thousands of congregations this year, time has already run out.